Stationary cultural labor market, which is in reality very narrow and in many cases already belongs to the past. Graduates from cultural management studies almost never met artists of their own generation during their time at university and often considered artists to be spoiling with their weird ideas and unpredictable strategies, all what cultural managers have learned at school. Obviously, these two categories are not programmed to meet each other. And if a cultural institution could survive without losing sight of artists, in reality, the cultural labor market is quite a volatile one. It doesn't bring that much money, but it will certainly be, as in the past, influenced and transformed by the artists who need allied administrators of their own generation, young men and women, aesthetically and intellectually grew up with them and will invent and organize the institutions for tomorrow with them. For every emerging generation of artists, there is a need for young cultural managers rethinking with them the adequate institution that would fit with new aesthetic practice. As a social factors, cultural institutions are nevertheless rather marginal. The society accepts and partially finances them because on the one hand they produce aesthetics and cultural innovations which can be useful for fashion and lifestyle. On the other hand, they contribute to the production of spectacles that are vital elements of Western media society. Might not like the aspect of cultural institution, but cultural institutions are also the very place where art and aesthetic practices are articulating themselves in reference to society. The very place which expresses the relationship between art and society and between art and politics for the public. The work of art itself cannot be considered as a site of politics. As a French art theoretician Schaeberer says, an artistic activity cannot be directly political without risking to lose its ability to produce differences. Obviously, a work of art or a poetic work is situated in another space of language than the notion of communication. The French theoretician Fernand Deligny wrote, "Art dodges the obstacles, politics construct problems. Art is a detour for nothing. Politics tend to direct things. The place where detour for nothing and the political project can meet is different in the space of cultural institution. Instead of thinking about cultural institutions as a place that exclusively creates, teaches, and preserves cultural products for a defined public, we should keep in mind that cultural institutions are the only place where society can be thought of, reflected on, and criticized. Cultural institutions are the consciousness of police and are thinking and working between those two commitments. They produce, they conserve, or teach cultural values for the society. They think about and reflect upon the society from a cultural field. By doing this, they are also supposed to maintain aesthetic experiences as a common experience and value shared by members of given society. Staged because its end day is conceived before the start of the project, and also to emphasize that, like what I heard from Melanie and Bernhard, is that this is it is like a theater production. Yes, of course. Even in Samuha, there was this character called Handyman, which actually was an alter ego of Suresh himself, and he performed a durational piece which lasted for 414 days. That's like summer of 2009 to August 2010. In its nature of temporariness, both the institute and Samuha are kind of a mock institutes. And I feel it's a kind of a take on any institutes, because here they stress with this word called the, which is actually as if like very authenticity. like claiming to be authentic. So Samuha also functioned in a similar way of claiming to be very professional and authentic, though it was like temporary in nature. And that was a time when Indian art market saw its boom, both by local and global buyers, and the entire world embraced Indian art. And to emphasize that the similarities between both the spaces or staged, because again I say that because of the introduction of this character of handyman with his costume for all 365 days, the same costume, and also his we say he had a designated activities to be done. He is not supposed to think director or anything, but he had all the instructions given by Mr. Suresh, and which he performed for all 365 days. And so there also this, in a similar way, there were these participants who also become witness, who also become audience. Yeah, so that's the parallels I draw between both the spaces. Okay, now coming back to the very word, the concept of the institution. So I also want to quote Mr. Suresh here, because when he was strictly using this word, that Samuha is not an institution. And here they stress that this is the institution from the day one. And I take this reference from this website of Samuha, which actually was announced much before the launch of the project. So there he mentions this very metaphor of sand castle. Yeah, castle built out of sand, which you see the kids doing on the seashores. And so for him, this would not be an institution, but it would be an experience that one could experience at a particular time, at a particular space. So it is actually a time specific. So that there is this tag of temporariness in it all the time, like any performances, like the institution performance also. And he says, I have to quote him, he says, it is not building forts and castles with stones and mortar, but about building it by small stone particles called sand. So what happens is, that by building the castles out of sand, which allows a lot of players to play and not to feel the pressure of the initiator for that every action has to be carved in stone. So a castle, when built in sand, is more malleable. It can be brought down in the same playful way, the way it was constructed. So both acts are very playful, bringing it down and building it up. And anyway, the same sand which is after bringing down can be remodeled into any form and any structure by any other players, because Samuha was a concept, it was not an institute. Thank you very much.